We riding, sliding across the globe with beats so smooth where everything flows. Let's take to the air, got an AI compass. Funk it up, every step we take it makes us whole. Oh yeah. Passports.
Welcome back to another episode of the AI Compass podcast for travel leaders. So happy to have each and every one of you back here. Today we've got a really cool treat. We've got Daniel Halberstadt is joining Jason and I. And as you know, Jason Halberstadt, Daniel Halberstadt, father and son team that have done a lot of work together. Super excited to have both of them here. They're going to talk about a book that they put together, an ebook called Who Took My Clicks? The 2025 Playbook for Travel Brand Visibility in the Age of AI. That's a mouthful. So before we go any further, Daniel, welcome to the show. Happy to have you here joining Jason and I.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just so you can get a little background on myself. I had started working out with my dad for the travel industry on SEO. I've been working in SEO for around 7 years now. The past few years, I have been working at Thrive Agency, one of the top digital marketing agencies for SEO around the whole world. I've been progressing as a SEO strategist there.
Very, very cool. Happy to have you here. And I'm looking at your dad's face and he's grinning ear to ear. Proud man to have you here on the show. And as we discussed right before we hit the play button, I'm sitting here with a couple real tech guys that are very analytical. So I'm going to try and ask some questions that maybe our listeners might be thinking. And let's start off with real quick. So when we were discussing what we're going to talk about, I envisioned, why is this important to our tour operators and people that might be listening to this? And it really came down to, when you go to a Google search page and you type something in, now we're starting to see these automated AI responses coming up at the top that kind of almost answer your question for you without you necessarily needing to go click on a bunch of links. And that's a big thing. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Jason, you want to jump in and kind of give us some numbers or some stats as to why this is important?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I've been doing SEO and digital marketing for a long time, about 2 years before Daniel was born, actually, in 1997, the year before Google was founded, and Daniel was born the year after Google was founded. So kind of since those early days, there's kind of always been this unwritten contract between Google and websites that invest a lot of money and time in publishing contents that Google then uses to get traffic, and they make obviously billions of dollars off of it. And that Google, really all these years and up till today has been like the majority of traffic that most websites, most travel websites get most of their traffic from Google, usually from organic search, or just it's when you just put in a keyword search and show up in the results. So many sites are like 90% or so of their traffic, and is the major fuel of new leads and new business for these businesses. And so now that AI has kind of come in and Google is injecting these AI overviews, or recently they call it AI mode. So it's really, like I said, it's answering people's questions without the need to go to a website, to find out the answers, or essentially your website and other companies' websites, and then everybody is staying just on Google. And so we did some studies where we're showing that for 55% of different searches that people are doing in the travel space, so 55% of the time they're seeing these AI overviews or the AI mode for Google search. Also,
Jason,
people are starting to use. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, just real quick, the question that comes to my mind, and maybe Daniel, you can answer it. I don't know, but my understanding was before the AI stuff, someone goes to Google and they put in a search and they either click on what we'd call organic results, which are, kind of the top of the page, but then maybe the very top of the page would be paid ads. And hopefully the paid ads or the organic results would be would kind of be consistent with what the search term was. But why would Google? I mean, they were getting paid every time somebody clicked on one of those paid ads, they were getting paid. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but why would Google want to keep people from clicking on websites if that's how they get paid?
No, absolutely. That is the $1 billion question, really.
Okay.
To me, it's
So I'm not the only one that has that
surprising how
question.
quickly. No, no, and Google has actually made this change quite quickly. Like within the last year, we've gone from almost 0% or very, very few percentage of the times that people are doing travel searches to now 55%. Yeah. And of those 55%, 70% of the time, they're not going to another website. Yeah. And so there are a lot of travel businesses that are seeing their traffic tank. And that's why we named the ebook Who Took My Clicks? And it's Google. Google AI.
It's gotta be
Taking them.
it's gotta be so frustrating. Daniel, I'm sure you work with clients that pay a lot of money, spend a lot of time and effort over the last several years to get on that first page. And now they're on that first page, and guess what? 70% of the time nobody's clicking on them. What's behind that? I mean, I guess I know what's behind it, but what are your clients? How do they feel?
Yeah, many of our clients feel like they're completely tanking. SEO might be dead. Luckily, most of these AI overviews are for informational intent keywords. What that means is when someone is searching, they are looking for information and not to spend money or book or contact anyone. I think this is part of the reason why Google is doing this is they know many of these informational intent keywords where people are not usually spending money or contacting websites for services. And they want to compete with the other AI services, like, for example, ChatGPT, that is gaining so much traction. So I think this was a defensive move from Google, so they can provide a similar service to AI where people can get information pretty much immediately as they ask a question. However,
Well, I suspect then maybe these AI overviews or whatever you mentioned it was, Jason, but these AI things are more likely to appear on searches where people are not intent to buy something, which probably means that advertisers won't pay as much for those keywords anyway. So maybe they're not cannibalizing their big advertisers that. Okay. Does that make
Yes,
sense?
that's
Okay.
that's
What's
exactly it.
going on?
Yeah, yeah, we can use the example of Danube River cruises. So if you still type in Danube River cruises or either luxury Danube River cruises better, the ads will be higher up on the page because they're actually earning a lot of money per click for those. If somebody does a search for best time to take a Danube River cruise, then it's going to show an AI overview there because they get less money per click, and it's also something that can pretty easily be answered in a paragraph or two or three, yeah, without the need to go to and read it in an entire article.
Because that person might they don't, someone said, oh, the Danube is really cool. And they're like, oh, I wonder when is a good time to go to the Danube. They're a long ways away from a purchase decision. So
correct.
they spend a few seconds on the page, they take off. The advertisers didn't miss out. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that paid a lot of money to get on that page through SEO. They're kind of frustrated,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Many of those visitors are no longer clicking onto your website, and you're missing on a lot of extra visibility. The AI overview does still link to your website, so you do get an impression, technically, from Google. Someone does see your brand name. However, they're not actually clicking on your website, and you won't be able to do any call to actions to potentially convert any of these users. So I think it has been a fallback, definitely. For Google and SEO, I think it's still important to create this type of content, however. In Google's eyes, having a lot of content covering different topics within your industry can portray you as an authority to Google's eyes. So even if you're not capitalizing on as much traffic as before, I do think it is important for your overall rankings to just continue creating content and keeping your content fresh and up to date.
Gotcha. And Jason, on that note, you had actually had mentioned the example of Danube River cruises. When's the best time to go? And I know you've got specific experience with that particular search term. Both of you guys do. So I think you wanted to go a little further into kind of what you saw change over the years, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, can you see my screen here?
Yes.
Yep.
Great.
So for
Yeah.
those of our listeners that don't have the video in front of them, Jason's got his screen open. He's showing us some examples. So excited for
Yeah. Yeah. So what I have open here is actually a record of hundreds and hundreds of Google results that are going from year 2016 up to 2024, June of 2024. So it's a bit of a time capsule to see how Google displays things differently. And so we'll go back to this example of the best time of year for Danube River cruise. Yeah. And this was 1 year ago. This is what the result looked like. And so you have, most of the visible space on the page dedicated to the review, which, there's nowhere to click here at all. But then right below it, we have what's called the featured snippet. Yeah, which I don't know if people remember that when they used to search for terms like this, Google would put, a small paragraph like this. But then, so this, as a 1 year ago, pretty small percentage of queries were showing this AI overview, and it was just pushing down the feature snippets and the number 1 and number 2 results. Then this screen here is actually showing today what the same query looks for. Best time of year to cruise the Danube River. And here it gives the AI overview at the top. And on the right-hand side, now we have a couple of links, but, our numbers are showing that around 70% of the people will not click on this or any other thing, and that will just stay on this page. Then right below that, we have an ad and a second ad and a third ad. And then you get the number 1.
And nobody's clicking on those either, though, right?
Oh yeah, you see where the number result is way. Yeah, the ads are the ads are they're still in the top ad is in the field of view, on a large computer screen. But then there's 3 ads, but getting to the first result is way down the page, essentially. And so what we're seeing is everything being pushed down and to the sides, and including the ads. But then if
So
we
this is what's
yeah.
I'm sorry. I was going to say this is what's going on, but I'm curious, like, okay, so what do you do about this? Whether you're paying for ads or whether you're working on SEO to get yourself on that page, how do you combat all this? What should our listeners know about that? Or I'm sure you're going that direction. It's just what's coming to mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Daniel already touched on something that maybe you're not actually getting clicks for terms like, best time to go or best things to do, or not. We call them top of funnel terms. So the people are not quite ready to book a trip yet, but are thinking about it. And so you're not getting clicks. So maybe why invest in that type of content now? And I think in the ebook we discovered some good reasons to do that. And I think maybe Daniel's actually better qualified to explain like why a continued investment is warranted if you're not getting the clicks.
Yes. So Google has many ranking factors, but one of the most important factors are basically an authority metric that they have, which basically compares your websites and your other competitors on how authoritative your website is on certain topics. Google has basically, will score you on your authority on a topic. Now, the more content you do have around a topic in your industry, it basically is signaling to Google that you are a higher authority due to the more content you have. That's not the only factor when it comes to authority. Receiving links from other websites is probably the number one factor. However, that does tie back to your content. Having a lot of content does create those backlinks. People write around the same topic and they will reference you in their blogs. And that is also a very...
Daniel?
Mhm.
Help me understand, why is that important? If I hear Jason saying 70% of the time people are not scrolling down the page and clicking on links, why do I even need to be on the first page anymore if nobody's going to click on any of those links? So I hear you saying, authority signals. I hear you saying things like, backlinks. Well, why does it matter if nobody's going to see it? Help me understand that.
So that all ties into the actual commercial keywords. When people are at the bottom of the funnel, your bottom of the funnel keywords, when people are ready to actually buy your product or service, you want to keep your authority as high as possible to...
So you show up on
as
those
high as
pages, right?
possible. Correct.
Right. Okay.
So
Okay.
it's
I'm
all
with you now.
all encompassing optimization, although we're still only focusing. Well, the most important metric is basically your bottom of funnel rankings, which at the end of the day, the top of the funnel rankings are important and they do correlate with each other.
When somebody's ready to buy, and they go to Google, if they're ready to buy a trip on the Danube River and they go to Google and Google does put in some AI thing like, oh yeah, cruises on the Danube are great, but they're there to buy. So they're more likely to scroll down. They're more likely to click on an ad. So you want to make sure that you show up when the person comes and searches for that. That's what right? Is that what I hear you saying?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense.
You want to keep up your content, and it's going to help leverage those important keywords that will actually bring money into the business. Is the way I would like to look at it.
Yeah. And one other aspect is that now a lot of people are using ChatGPT, and some are using like Perplexity and also Bing, which are drawing upon ChatGPT's base of information. No, and so just one of the techniques of being in the answers of ChatGPT is being an authority on a certain subject. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And-
That's another really good point. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then actually in our ebook, we uncovered a few different ways that you can kind of tricks that I guess are kind of experimental at this point, but actually experimentation, I think it's the whole last chapter of the book, which ends up being almost half of the ebook, is how to understand what's happening by actually doing experiments. Yeah. And so when we do experiments in SEO, it's actually very similar. I used to be a scientist, actually, like a molecular biologist. It's like designing, an experiment with chemicals and all. You have a hypothesis, and you then design an experiment to try to measure that hypothesis, and then you actually have to measure. Yeah. And so let's actually touch on the measurement part first, because before you can do experiments, you have to know, measure.
Absolutely.
And so, Dan, you've been working on, been developing software now to measure the impacts and visibility of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are many metrics to cover. Google Analytics is already doing a good job at showing you the traffic that you might get from any AI or other reference websites. And I have been personally focusing on tracking prompts, just like you would track a keyword positioning. For example, on Google, we can track our position when you search the best time to cruise the Danube. right now, there's a few softwares out there that are all trying to do the same thing. That is basically tracking an AI response for a specific prompt, like you would for a keyword. So in this case, we are trying to emulate the responses from ChatGPT uh, for different types of prompts, like what are the best times to cruise the Danube, or simply Danube River cruise, a more commercial keyword as well, or prompt, in order so we can track our results for specific terms um, around our industry. And I think this is going to be very key when it comes to testing and experimenting. Basically, as you put out new content, we might have updated some content, basically testing how the AI is ranking you and what it's considering about you in real time, and day over
Yeah.
day as well.
Right. Daniel, I'm curious if I were to go to Google and type in Danube River cruises, that's all I type in, and I go to ChatGPT and type in Danube River cruises, am I likely to see the same response? Will I get the same recommendations? I guess my question is ChatGPT just going to Google?
That is a very good point. So ChatGPT is actually using Bing. Very similar to Google. It's just a different search engine, the second biggest search engine out there when it comes to traffic and search volume. Um, and the results are very different. Google will list you as many websites as you want. You can continue clicking next page, and you can come up with 100 or 1,000 websites if you would like. ChatGPT or these AIs are a bit different. They might display 1, 10, 12 results. It's not consistent, the amount of results they're always displaying. I think it's very dependent on the industry and the type of information you're seeking for. And also an interesting discrepancy I have noticed is that certain keywords on Google, for example, luxury Danube river cruise, is considered bottom of funnel. It's considered a transactional keyword. People are ready to book their trip once they are searching for this keyword. If you copy and paste that exact keyword into AI, you're likely to get a much more informational result. I have noticed ChatGPT is not likely to actually list travel agencies, even though we just had the exact same text that we put into Google, and we're getting a list of travel agencies. I have noticed you have to be more specific with AI if you want to get a list of your competitors or companies for a specific topic. You need to specifically ask for it. Like, what are the best companies for a luxury Danube cruise? This is something I have noticed. And it's something I am working into my app. You first input your keywords, and my app will recommend a prompt for each keyword. That way you're getting transactional results in a list of websites in your AI results.
Yeah,
Mhm.
let's actually dive deeper into that specific point. In the ebook, we have an entire section about the fanning out of a query. So when you do a cruise for or a query for luxury Danube cruise, what it's actually doing now, or actually, no, maybe we should do the best time to cruise the Danube River, because in that case, it will be giving almost always an AI overview. And so in that case, what it's really doing is I don't know if you've ever used like deep research by Google or by OpenAI. You kind of do a basic query and then it goes out and it does a bunch of other related queries, like the best month to cruise the Danube River, and all these related queries that people would ask. Best time to go with kids on the Danube, etc. And so then it goes out and finds all this information and then brings it back together and compiles it into an AI overview or AI mode. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's one very, very important mechanism, and is also a way that you can improve your your content by, I think a lot of the suggestions that we have in the ebook are to think about what are these additional queries going to be, and then write the answers to those queries in your document. So maybe your article about the best time to go to is actually going to be longer now, taking into all the different fan out queries that Google is doing. Yeah.
So instead of just writing a blog post that's, best time to go to Danube is June, it might be best time to go to Danube is, it's more comprehensive. You might even say you can also go in September, and there's a lot of benefits to going in September because of the color of the trees or whatever. So you just cover your bases more, is what I'm hearing. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you're kind of thinking about who your readership is going to be and predicting all of their different needs. Yeah, regardless of, if it's a child or traveling with a dog or with a wheelchair or want to taste, wine or see the fall leaves. So yeah, so I think you're seeing that in order to have a real high visibility, you're going to need to kind of fan out your content.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one.
And a good strategy. Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say, take us to the measurement part or the experimentation. We talked about the measuring, and the experimentation you said was kind of the fun part. I could see it. I could see the look in your eyes, right? So tell us a little bit more about, okay, now we're experimenting with this, and then kind of wrap this up in a way that our listeners can have something to take away with them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We can, for example, we'll have just this theory, this is a hypothesis that if we expand our article about the best time to go to the Danube, or maybe even possibly break it into different articles for different interests. Not sure if that's totally necessary in this case, but that's one option. And but from that we can publish it, and then over time measure different queries and different prompts and see if that change article is now gaining visibility, maybe losing visibility, or maybe it stays the same. Yeah.
Yes.
And you can do a lot of this with the AI, can't you? I'm reading into this. You can use the AI to go out and do the testing, to regenerate the prompts, reuse the prompts, and then to report on the results. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what our software is. It's gonna regenerate the prompt every day for you, and it's gonna keep a log. That way you can say, hey, my brand was mentioned this day for this prompt. Was it not mentioned? If it was mentioned, on what position was I in? Was I in number 1, number 6?
Yeah. And also in the ebook, we mentioned several other, a lot of technical things, really, because I think, ironically, one of the ways people are going to win in the age of AI is actually using AI to gain a competitive advantage, to be able to, generate these articles, for example. And another very promising technical aspect that we wrote about in the book is using schema. And so what schema is kind of a slightly technical, IT word that is kind of defining a data structure. So for, say, like an itinerary, a cruise on the Danube River. Okay. So cruise on the Danube River, I think they call it a boat tour within the schema. So it's a type of tour, and it's kind of hierarchically under tour. Yeah. And then the ship is kind of hierarchically under under the itinerary and the cruise line. And so each of these different data objects or ways of describing things has a standard way to describe it in hierarchical data. Yeah. And so what that the way this yeah.
What is this, DJ?
I have
Here's what I hear you telling Daniel.
why
go
it's
ahead.
important. Yeah. Yeah. So websites typically have a lot of fluff code, right? There's going to be a lot of code that explains the design, the size of the text, where the images go. And all that info is really not important to these AIs. It's basically like fluff information that is useless. The AI is really looking for that text within that code, which can be a very small percentage. So when an AI visits your website, it's going to look at the code. It can't look at the actual design. And there's going to be a lot of unusable information in there for the AI. What the schema does is it can organize important information hierarchically with a hierarchy. And for example, an object type, it can be a tour, it can be reviews. You can add all types of different information and basically remove that fluff so the AIs can easily understand the contents of your website.
So
So
it's
this is
basically
something-
it's basically a way of saying to both the AI or to even the search engines that
Mhm.
this is what's on this page. You don't need to look at every little piece of code or whatever. This is what it's all
Exactly.
about in an organized way that
Yes.
all of the search engines, all of the AIs can see it the same way, right?
Exactly.
That's,
Yes.
that's pretty
Perfect.
much it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
a universal language. All of them can understand it, and it makes
and
easier to
Well, this
process
is
that information.
right, and this is explained in the ebook, right? You touch on
Mhm.
this at least in the ebook. So, I'm curious, what else do we need to throw into this conversation before we share with our listeners where to go get the ebook? Because I have a feeling we're going to tell them that.
Um, yeah, I could think some other things, or actually just continuing on with the schema thing for just 1 second more. And so the early studies have shown that it will increase your visibility about 30% or so. And so in the ebook, we're going to actually show you step by step how to do that. And then also, yeah, keep an eye out on LinkedIn, and probably actually in the description of the video or the podcast, we'll have a WordPress plugin that will automatically set up this schema for you, because it's actually kind of complex and difficult. Daniel wrestles with that stuff all the time. But we have, an AI and a WordPress plugin that will actually do it for you. And so, yeah, check out that tool as well. And yeah, read the ebook. It's kind of long. It's like 90 pages. It's it's a bit.
Can you load it?
Okay.
Can you load it into ChatGPT and have it summarized for you?
Yes, absolutely.
You can download the PDF. As a matter of fact,
There we go.
Yeah, soon there'll be a link at the bottom of the page that will automatically send you to ChatGPT, and that's actually is another experiment that we're doing, because if you say summarize this document, mytrip.ai is a wonderful resource for information about AI and travel, then the AI remembers you. So there's lots and lots of tips and tricks. They're all new, 'cause this is all very new. It's a matter of, understanding having an understanding of what's happening and experimenting and measuring.
Which is exactly why our listeners really should go download the ebook, run it through ChatGPT, whatever, however you process your information. But more importantly is these are the types of conversations we're going to continue to have into the following weeks here on the show. Daniel, such a pleasure having you join Jason and I here on the show today. Look forward to working on more projects with you, and just, hey, father and son, thanks for letting me be a part of this. And I always learn a lot. So thank you so much. And look forward to seeing or having everybody listen to us on future episodes. So thank you so much for tuning in today.
thank you. I really appreciate it.
We ride.